I'm Aaron Nathans.
And I'm Michael Ronstadt.
And this is the
Nathans and Roncast. Okay,
still
Aaron.
there?
I'm still
Wake
here.
up. It's starting right now. You can't sleep through this.
Happy 2026, folks.
Woohoo! And boy, do we have a treat for our listeners. And our viewers too. We now we're now on YouTube as well, and you can see us.
Oh, I'm going to wave at you.
Hi, Michael.
Hey, yeah.
So we interviewed the great James McMurtry, who is a fantastic songwriter, and we're going to talk to you about that in just a moment. But first, if you're in the Mid-Atlantic area, Aaron Nathans and Michael G. Ronstadt will be playing at the Listening Booth in Lewis, Delaware. That's coastal near Rehoboth Beach on the 24th of January, 2026. So for more information, go to our website, nathansandronstadt.com. But yeah, James McMurtry, I love his songwriting. I first heard him in the car when I was just starting out as a songwriter, and I was really amazed by his ability to paint a story. He's Dylan-esque, but he's got more of a Texas approach. Of course, he's the son of Larry McMurtry, the celebrated author of books like Lonesome Dove. So you know the poetry runs in the family, but he's got an approach all his own.
Yeah, and one of the things I always wonder with people who have had success in the songwriting world is I ask, what drives you? What makes you want to create? And he said he was driven by the fear of not having a job and always relied on live performances for income rather than record sales. And sometimes as a non-musician or as a not as successful musician, you wonder, well, the famous people, they make money from their music, and we're all doing the same thing. And I really feel that connection as a fellow songwriter. No matter what level you're at, sometimes we all feel the same way and we're driven by the same stuff. So we hope that some of that connects with you as a listener. And if you are a creative, artistic person going out there and just trying stuff out, maybe it'll give you some ideas.
All right. Well, without further ado, here is our interview with James McMurtry. James, thank you for taking a moment to chat with us today. It's an honor to have you on the podcast.
Thank you all.
Let's see. So the new album is The Black Dog and the Wandering Boy. Is there a theme that holds this album together?
No, I don't work that way. I write, I'm motivated by fear of not having a job. And so I record whichever songs I happen to finish in time for the session.
Excellent. That answers what a question I had for later. So it's everyone has a different process, and I know it's a generic question, but it's nice to know how a fellow musician works.
In this day and age, with no diminishing record sales, album sales across the board, there's the money mostly comes from live performance, right? Mm-hmm. Why do you feel pressure to write and record new material?
Well, because it's advertising for the tours. We put a record out. You guys will want me to talk on your podcast. The radio guys will let me talk on the radio, sometimes play live. Print journalists will write about it. People will know I'm coming to town and they'll buy a ticket, some of them. So it's upside down from the old business model where, we used to tour to try to support record sales to generate revenue off of royalties. Well, that doesn't exist anymore. So now we put out records to promote tour dates.
Does it feel any different for you with this model?
No, because I never sold any records to start with. It was always from the road.
You went to the University of Arizona, which is where I went for my undergraduate, and then you ended up performing there. How did you? Had you already been performing before you went to college for Spanish and English?
No, that's really where I cut my teeth. There was a place called the Sawmill Cafe right by the main gate, U of A main gate there, that would give you $10 in free beer.
Perfect.
And that was pretty good for an 18-year-old. And then I was hanging out with people with some. There was an organization called the Arizona Old Time Fiddlers Association.
Oh, okay.
And it was a lot of old guys, and some of them knew fiddle tunes that nobody else knew. But they would have these fiddle contests, and they needed backup guitarists for it. So I learned how to do the boom chuck kind of old time fiddle backup, and that was actually a good experience. I recommend you play with old people whenever you can.
Absolutely. I mean, Tucson being my hometown, but also being a place where I cut my teeth, essentially performing on 4th Avenue and downtown and around the University of Arizona campus and all over. I ended up mostly playing with people about 40 years older than me, and it was really good for me.
That's a good thing. Well, there's people in those trailer parks down there that just, some of them were in their 80s back then, and this was in the 1980s.
Okay. Yeah.
So, they'd been out there and they'd actually done the things that were in the songs they were playing.
Yes.
They plowed with mules. They knew that stuff.
Then you ended up going, I guess, moving to Texas after that?
Yeah, I drifted into San Antonio. A friend of mine was renovating an old bar down there, so I lived upstairs in the bar for a while. He was like General Gopher.
I know that we all have different ways when we move to different places, but what was your go-to way to connect and network with people early on?
A drink. I'd go to bars and drink.
That's a good way to meet people,
Yeah.
Everyone's really open then, which is good. Were you usually gigging at the same place eventually?
I never gigged at the Liberty Bar. They didn't really they didn't do that. But I did have some gigs around San Antonio, and that's where, I heard about the Kerrville Folk Festival, and they had that new folk contest up there. I was among the winners of the 1987 New Folk, which that got me a few gigs in Austin. And it expanded my scope a little bit. And then my dad took a job for John Mellencamp, writing the script for him. So I pitched John a tape. Because my plan at that point, I'd met these Nashville guys that would come down to Kerrville and try to teach us how to write songs. And a lot of them were staff writers in Nashville and had pitched their songs to established artists. And I thought, well, I can do that. I know people that do it. I didn't know anybody that had their own record deal. And so I pitched John a tape hoping that he would want to cut one of my songs. That way, when I get to Nashville, someone will rent me an apartment, because, the first thing they ask you up there is, what do you do? And you say, I'm a songwriter. And they say, no, what do you do? Everybody in Nashville is a songwriter. So I thought I'd get a leg up that way. And John didn't want to cut my songs, but he had some time on his hands, and, calls up, said, you want to make a record? And I said, sure. He said, you got enough songs? I said, no. He said, well, can you write them by February? Yeah, I'll give it a shot. Well, that's kind of how it got going.
Wow. How do you feel about that first record today?
The vocal was abysmal. I played okay, decent guitar a couple of places. The band was great. All those first three records, my vocals continued to get worse for a while. But after a while on the job, I learned on the job. I learned how to sing.
Yeah.
Actually, probably the best thing for my songwriting was taking vocal lessons, voice lessons, because I went to a voice coach named Maddie Kay in Austin. She's still working. And she taught me that the voice is an instrument, and you want to write for that instrument. You don't want to write words that will tongue tie you. You want to write stuff that will roll off the tongue. I think that's why hillbilly vernacular works so well in song. Ain't is your friend. It rolls right off. It doesn't choke you down. And so thinking that way, really, that improved my writing more than anything.
And I think it's an amazing skill when people can tell a story and you feel like that songwriter is talking to you. And that I really feel that from your music. I feel like I'm getting to know you, or at least the content of what you're telling me stuff.
No, I'm a fiction writer. Don't take that bait. That's the thing. Yeah. Most of my songs are from the point of view of fictional characters, some of whom don't agree with me. Some of whom are female. You don't get that because you're hearing it in my voice. For a guy to write from a female point of view, you usually have to spell it out, like John Prine did with Angel from Montgomery. He starts out, I am an old woman named after my mother. Somebody wrote Ballad of Penny Evans. I know Steve Goodman covered it, but I can't remember who wrote it. But it starts out, my name is Penny Evans, and I've just turned 21. Doesn't matter who's singing it, the character's female. I tend not to spell it out that clearly. You're going to have to listen a while.
Okay.
At what point did you decide that you were going to be a Texas songwriter, or that you were going to be based in Texas?
Well, I just happen to live here. I didn't come to Texas to be a songwriter.
Is there a difference between a Nashville songwriter and a Texas songwriter? Because there's a really strong tradition.
There is a
of
difference,
Texas
because in Nashville, it's your job. People clock in to write songs, and you have to write a song that's going to get on the radio. That's the whole deal. And it was that way in pretty much any recorded music for a long time. Now, radio is not the thing it used to be for most of us. I think for country artists, it still is. So, those guys, they go into Tree or, whatever publishing house they work for, and they go in there at 8 in the morning and they stay in that office all day till, 5 of them working together sometimes till they come up with something that sounds like last week's big hit. And that's why it tends to be, everything sounds a lot the same because they find a formula that works and they go for it. That's their job. It's not evil. It's just, but that's how the Nashville thing gets shaped.
How did that wear on you if you ever tried to do that?
I never would have made it there, I don't think. And if I had, I wouldn't be able to write the stuff I write now. I got lucky. Which is not saying, some of my best good friends, Fred Kohler, had a great run in Nashville. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't think I would have been good at it.
Do you think that Texas is a good fit for your sensibility?
Well, anywhere should be a good fit for it. I live in Texas. My dad's from Texas. Half my family. So I have it as a point of reference, and it did shape my style, but I don't specifically write. I'm not a Texas songwriter in that I don't write specifically Texas songs all the time. My songs they're as apt to be set in Maryland as they are in Texas. Deckhand's Daughter, or not Deckhand's, but Deckhand's Daughter is Missouri. But Rachel's song, back to the female point of view, that began when I was a kid, and I was in the back of somebody's station wagon facing backwards, and we were coming south across the Maryland Panhandle, and we crossed into Virginia at Point of Rocks, and there's a railroad tunnel off the side of the road, and I happened to glance out that way, and there was a coal train coming out of that tunnel with snow on the top of the coal, and there wasn't any snow where we were, but the weather comes from the west. That train was coming from the West Virginia coal fields, and I thought, well, there's going to snow tomorrow. We'll get out of school. That'll be great. Didn't happen, but that became the first line of that song many years later.
Oh, okay.
I grew up in Northern Virginia. We moved there when I was 7 years old.
I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, the desert. I feel like sometimes, whether it's Texas or Arizona or Utah, big skies, like it's kind of, for me, I remember hearing a lot of the cowboy tradition and that storytelling, but kind of snuck its way into my writing. Is there something about like the arid dryness of the desert or anything that you've really taken to within your songwriting specifically ever?
I don't know that it's got into my writing. I like open areas like that. I understand why my father nearly went crazy back east, because he always said when he would drive home, he'd go down 81 to Knoxville to 40 to, and he said he always felt a lot better when he got to Memphis, because the sky would start to open up and it would start to feel Western like he knew it. It didn't bother me one way or the other. I was used to, I like getting out in the woods and, hunting squirrels, whatever. Woods are okay with me. Plains is okay with me. I don't mind.
I was in Austin about a week ago. I went to Southwest Regional Folk Alliance. I was following up on I was at Kerrville last year doing New Folk. I didn't win. Do you remember the songs that you played during your New Folk?
Well, yeah, I submitted Crazy Wind and a song that eventually became Talking at the Texaco. It was called Small Town, and it didn't have the bridge that I put in it on the recording because, first thing when I got to Indiana to make that record, Mellencamp says, your songs are pretty linear. That's hard to do on a record. You can carry that off live because you got your face. You can, but, on a record, you need to, change up your structure a little bit. So I wrote that bridge for Texaco, and that made it doable.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the songs I submitted for New Folk were Crazy Wind, Small Town, and then when it turned out I was among the winners and I had to do that winner's concert, I had to write several more songs. I wrote Terry, I think I wrote Storekeeper, and there was a song called Dancing in Starlight, which I don't think it never got on a record. I think I did a solo version of it on Austin City Limits in January 1990. That's the only place it exists.
Wow. Was it just like the next week that you had to go back and play?
I
Did you have to
think
like
so.
write
Yeah,
over the
it might
next
have been
week?
2 weeks. I
2
can't
weeks.
remember.
That must have been. You must have been both happy and maybe a little intimidated by the work in front of you.
No, that's when I found that a deadline really helps me because I don't finish songs till I got studio time booked. Usually, I'll generate scraps of songs in the course of a normal day, but I don't sit down and really try to finish them until first. No, the first step is that the tour draw starts to fall off. So okay, I need to make a record. So, I figure out when everybody can do the record. I get the time booked, and then I sit down and cram for the exam, as it were, finish the song so we can have something to record.
I think we have a mutual friend who introduced us to you, Tishina Hosa,
Yes.
and she's always had, I guess, her guitar player that has been with her for a lot of years. Are there any musicians you've worked with over the last few decades that have been kind of, I don't know if they've been, pretty commonly just on stage with you while you travel, or are you
Yeah,
mostly a
my
solo
road
tour?
band has been, Tim Holt and Darren Hess have been with me for over 20 years. And Cornbread, the bass player, he's only been in the band about 15 years now.
Okay.
So Betty Sue's been touring with us the last 3 or 4 years, and she's kind of she sits in on 4 or 5 songs during our set. Darren and I sit in on a couple of songs on her set, so the whole thing's growing. But we've all got some history.
I know Betty. She's great. She's a
Yeah.
great writer. Guy Clark's old number one turns 50 this year. What effect did that album have on your craft, and what was it like to be a friend of Guy Clark?
Well, I didn't know Guy well enough. I guess we were friendly, but he and my son were friends. They actually wrote together a good bit in his later years. Curtis lived in Nashville for a while. One of the last times I was in Nashville when I had nothing to do, I went up there to see Curtis, and Curtis was going over to Guy's house to co-write on something, and I wanted the car because Nashville had changed since I'd been there. There was an East Nashville that you could go to even if you didn't want drugs. In the 80s, you didn't go to East Nashville unless you were Steve Earle. So yeah, I wanted to find the new Nashville. So I dropped him off at Guy's house. Y'all have fun. I took off. But Guy was always friendly, and that record really did strike me. A friend of mine had it. I went to visit this an old friend of mine that was living in San Francisco, and he said, "Did you ever see this?" And he holds up that record and played it, and just there's something about his voice was just. And I knew some of the songs because Jerry Jeff Walker had covered them, and I was a big Jerry Jeff fan. But I realized, I heard old number one, and I realized, this is how you're supposed to do Desperados Waiting for a Train.
Can you think of any songwriters today that have impressed you? Anybody you've seen out in the world? Someone who's making less than $1 million a year.
It's been a while. Yeah, I don't really listen to much. My son's good. Curtis has got a couple of great records out.
Oh.
You can find his stuff at CurtisMcMurtryMusic.com. I think you can get it on Bandcamp too.
He's in Nashville?
No, he was in Nashville for a couple of years. He lives in West Austin now. Yeah, he's
Did
married.
he have that?
His wife Diana Burgess is a really good cellist, and they do, and they're actually all over this record. You can hear them on the song Pinocchio.
I found that when I was listening to it, I was like, oh, there's a beautiful cello part. And as a cellist, I told Aaron, I'm like, do you know who that
Curtis
is?
does the harmony vocal and the banjo on that track.
Okay.
And then Diana does cello all over that record. She's on, 5 or 6 songs there. So yeah.
It's wonderful cello work. It's beautiful work.
His last record's called The Pollen and the Rot. And it has the lead track off it was Last in Line. It's about billionaires, which he doesn't much like billionaires, so
yeah. Yeah. What kind of tour schedule do you like to keep up? What's the magic number,
as much as the market will bear, which usually means we're out for about half the year, and when we're home, we got our residency gigs at the Continental Club and our local weekends, Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma weekends, until the touring starts up again. That's about how much the U.S. will bear. You don't want to go back to a market too many times and oversaturate it because you'll be looking at empty seats.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and we're starting to get more offers in Europe. I haven't worked in Europe since before the lockdown. So at the end of this month, we're going to the Netherlands for the Take Root Festival, and then next August we got the Tonderfest in Denmark, and they're going to put some dates around that, and then I think we're going back again in October for the UK. And I'm leery of going over there because the expense is so high. But if we run out of road in the States, might as well go over there and try to develop a market.
From what I've observed and experienced, it's sometimes a high cost or loss to start building. But once you hit a certain stride, I've noticed people have, not myself, I've almost gotten to that point with some markets, but I've noticed some people come back and they have their ducks in a row, as it is,
Yeah, you got to get a system down, find out what works.
Yeah, and it seems like a lot of people, when I've played overseas, tend to be happy to connect you with new folks, and I always enjoy making those connections. Do you find that happens, or are you not like the main booking brain on stuff?
No, I go where the agents send me.
Okay.
I let them do the network.
Have you toured with our mutual friend Tish Hinojosa out across?
I have not toured with Tish. We've done dates together off and on over the years. But
how did you two meet each other?
I had just moved to San Antonio. I walked down the street around the corner onto St. Mary Street, and I heard her singing outdoor on a patio, a place called Tycoon Flats. And there wasn't very many people there, so I helped her load the gear into her she had an old Toyota or Datsun pickup, New Mexico plates, beat to hell. And she was carrying her own PA, so I helped load those EV speakers into the back of that thing. And that was before I'd ever even finished a song. And I was just trying to scrape up some gigs around there, and I try to do the most obscure covers I could find. But you had to do one or two Jimmy Buffett songs so the food and beverage guy would hire you, because they want something they can drink to.
Tish told us some of her Linda Ronstadt stories. Did you ever cross paths with
No,
that
I
Linda?
was that. She left Tucson long before I got there. I knew people that had known her then, but I've never met the lady. But I did buy a big pruning saw at Ronstadt's Hardware.
Oh, you
downtown
did?
Tucson.
Ah,
yeah.
My dad,
I used it to cut up driftwood. I'd pick up driftwood out of the Rito back before the Rito banks were paved, and you could drive a 4-wheel drive pickup off the side in there and pick up all that drifted up mesquite and
that's
good
great.
firewood.
Did you work with my dad, Michael J. Ronstadt? Did he hook you up with some stuff?
I don't remember him.
Yeah, my dad ran it for a lot of years, and he always said that they sold anything from tractors to teaspoons, and
they had good stuff. That was a real hardware store. Yeah.
That's wow. Of all the people we've spoken to, no one has actually had a story about visiting the hardware store. So thank you for telling me.
Yeah, that was back when Hotel Congress was a transient flop, wasn't open at all.
Yeah, now they call the Ronstadt Transit Center has a nickname, the Ronstadt Transient Center, sometimes in Tucson because of the homeless population there. And
I'm glad they still got somewhere to go.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's and the weather's, I always, I guess if you're going to be without a home, the weather in the West is a little better to survive, because
Southwest, yeah. But I like to hunt Gambel's quail. That was my favorite thing in Arizona. I'd go up there by Oracle Junction.
Oh, okay.
You just walk off in the hills. Now there's some subdivisions up there now, but back then you go to the transformer station there where you turn off to go to Oracle, and you just drive out to the west of that and go out into the hills.
Yeah. My dad wrote a song called "The Mill of Oracle." You can always find it online, but it's would be Ronstadt Generations would be the recording, but it's about a Ronstadt company, or F. Ronstadt Hardware Company windmill that was bent over like a sunflower, and my dad wrote this beautiful story about it, and and I've spent some time gigging out in Oracle, even though it's kind of tiny. So,
yeah, there was a place that did like spoken word stuff and solo acoustic stuff. I never played it, but I used to go up there I had friends that go up there to hang out.
Yeah, it's more populated, but still a lot of beautiful areas there these days. Do you get back to Tucson or Club Congress or?
I get back through Tucson. I play the Congress every year.
Okay.
Every night. I think one time we played Plush on 4th Avenue. Didn't draw so well over there, but that was earlier. So
Yeah, but my brother Petey Ronstadt plays Congress fairly often, and whenever I'm back in Tucson, I'll be playing kind of
you live in Cincinnati. I was just through Cincinnati. I bought a hat there at what is it I got? Oh, is that the yeah?
Oh,
that's
nice.
From Cincinnati.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Gus Miller, great old guy. Yeah. Got a real nice Italian hat.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh,
from Cincinnati.
Hey, it's nice to know that there's some places to get good hats in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And,
He's been there since 1951. He said. He still speaks with a Greek accent.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Pretty heavy.
Yeah, that's well, wonderful. Are there any songs on your new album that you would like to just kind of tell people about, or that you're really proud of?
I don't know. The one I had some of the most fun with was called Back to Coeur d'Alene, which I mispronounced it on the record. I didn't know the regional pronunciation, so you really have to be Steve Earle to get it to rhyme with gasoline.
Oh.
But so I did it wrong, but it's a fun little song. There's a character in it named Mikey that I named after one of my dogs. We have 2 rescue dogs, and Mikey's a rescue dog from Houston, and he always seems to wake up. He wakes up thinking he's in trouble, it looks like, and I could relate. So I had this line in it about Mikey come to visit in the morning and says we're not in trouble anymore, and that kind of started the whole, somehow envisioned this story of this bunch of knuckleheads trying to get something going in L.A. in the film business. And I guess where it connects to me is it makes the point that we don't want our kids to be artists for some reason. Probably it's practical. We don't want our kids to be poor. So we'd rather they went to school and were doctors and lawyers, whatever. There's a bridge in the song that kind of gets that point across. And I wrote that bridge shortly after Chris Christopherson passed away.
Hey, we're giving just a small little break so we can ask you to like, subscribe, all the things you do in this digital media world. I don't like asking, but it's necessary for us to survive. So this is the season 3 of a podcast you've never heard of, and we hope you hear of it and tell someone else. So thank you so much for listening to the Nathans and Roncast. Let's go to the next part of our interview with James McMurtry.
Christopherson was really the first individual that was ever identified to me as a songwriter. I was about 9 years old when my stepdad got a hold of me and Bobby McGee and turned me on to it. And I'd never thought about where songs came from up to that time. Well, what I didn't know until after he died was that after Christopherson died was that Christopherson's family disowned him when he resigned his military commission to go to Nashville to be a songwriter. His mother wrote him a long letter about what a disappointment he'd always been, this, that, and the other. You wonder why he drank a 5th of bourbon every day. So they were a military family. They did not want Chris to be any kind of artist, but by God, he did it anyway.
You're kind of sandwiched in between. Your dad was obviously an artist, and your son is an artist. How did it work when your dad figured out that you were going to be a musician, and how did you feel when your son made that choice?
He didn't kick up a fuss about it because he'd already broken the mold. He'd been through that. His parents were happy that he found a way to make a living because they knew he wasn't going to make it as a cowboy or a rancher. He didn't like that and wasn't good at it. But they didn't understand what he was doing, really. And Last Picture Show caused a big stir in that little town. And
yeah,
both my grandparents got in Larry's face, like, how could you write this? Well, I just had to pay the doctor bills for for the boy. He wrote that book to pay the hospital bill for my delivery.
Wow. Huh. I've seen the movie. I didn't read the book, but I can see what you mean.
Well, actually, I stole a line out of the book. There's the song South Texas Lawman, where he's talking about, I can't stand getting old, it don't fit me. Those are Larry's words for the character Sam the Lion, where it's in a scene where they're out fishing and he just goes on this tirade, says, God damn it, I don't want to get old. It don't fit me. I never would have used the word fit if I hadn't read it. It's not in the movie. The scene's in the movie, but the line's not. But actually, I do think it's a better movie than it was a book.
Okay.
You can kind of tell he's in a hurry writing that book. It's got great parts in it, but the movie is better.
The title track to your new album, I've read somewhere that you based it on a hallucination.
Larry's hallucination. Larry had he suffered from dementia towards the end, and after he passed, my stepmom Faye asked me, "Did Larry ever talk to you about his hallucinations?" I said no. He said, "Well." She said, "Did he ever talk about the black dog and the wandering boy?" And I said, "No, but I'm going to use that." So I did.
So that was secondhand.
Yeah, and I just applied it to a fictional character, this messed up grown kid still living with mom, can't really function because brain's not wired together.
So on the song Annie, you talk about 9/11. I got two questions about that. But first, I mean, you talk about how everything you write is mostly fiction. Was that fiction, or was there anything?
Well, no, Annie itself refers to Ann Compton, who was a reporter for ABC News who was on Air Force One on 9/11. She was following Bush around doing his educational push, and was there in the classroom when he's just sat there frozen while they figured out what to do, and then they herded everybody back on the plane. Well, she was on Air Force One all day long, flying around, evading what they thought might be missile attacks and not knowing where they're going, and finally they sat down, and she didn't know where they are. She gets off the plane, they're off at Air Force Base in Nebraska. She calls into the headquarters, and they put her on live with Peter Jennings. So she says, "Peter, can you hear me?" And he said, "Yes, Annie, I can hear you. What are you doing in Nebraska?" So that's where that whole line, that's where the song comes from.
Oh, wow.
And that is fairly autobiographical. It's my thoughts on it.
What you saw.
It's like turning in your term paper 20 years late. All American songwriters are supposed to have their "I Will Never Forget 9/11" song, or "We Will Never Forget." One of the things I'll never forget is that we heard from Yasser Arafat before we heard from our own president. The much reviled Jimmy Carter and Rosalind put on hazmat suits and walked through 3 Mile Island right after it melted down to show us that their government was in control. We can handle this. We didn't hear from Bush all damn day.
There's a line in one of the songs, it might have been that one, where you say we've seen worse.
Yeah, that's that song.
What is it about the Bush years that has such a grip on you now that we have clearly, there's a lot of drama nowadays with this current administration. Why do you return to that subject?
I just hadn't got the song written yet. I'm still clearing it out.
You think it's still coming?
What do you mean, the Bush stuff?
The current...
Well, the current stuff's going to get a lot worse, yeah.
Is it just that it's too soon to write about?
Well, I just haven't... I don't know why. I write about what I write about when I write about it just because it triggers something. I've been working on that Annie song for a long time before it came together. You don't know when a song's going to come together.
Yeah, that one grabbed me.
I don't really want to write about Trump specifically because I don't want to spend any time on him. I'm not even sure he's the problem. It looks to me like Stephen Miller is feeding him stuff to look at. He thinks the footage of 2020 Portland is current. People are pulling his strings just like a puppet. I'm not interested in Trump. I'm a little bit interested in what's going on behind the scenes, but the real problem is not Trump. The real problem is there's a market for Trump. We got all these people out there that want to believe that shit. That's your problem. Trump's nothing.
Is it hard to live in a place like Texas right now at a time like this?
Yeah. It's bothersome to know that we have this mindset. And my representative is a guy named Michael Cloud from Corpus Christi, who's a straight-out insurrectionist. If I lived a half a mile east, I'd be in Lloyd Doggett's district.
And so what's the role of a songwriter at a time like this? I mean, is it do people need to address this, or is it okay to just sort of
Oh yeah, it needs to
reflect the
be
world as you see it?
addressed. It needs to be addressed. But the main thing, you got to write good songs first, or nobody's going to listen to them. You got to be careful. I mean, Annie does get a little preachy. It's riding the line there. It's not my best song, but it is my best effort at that time.
That's a great line there, or a great thought about, that's my best effort on a particular subject. What is it about a song? I think I saw it written somewhere that you have a hard time these days having someone else's song grab you. But what is it about a song that does grab you? What qualities does it have? And in terms of the
Should
songwriting
be more
and
than the
recording.
sum of its parts.
Mm-hmm.
You can write a song with really great lines in it, good groove, great melody. But if you don't have that Dr. Frankenstein, it's alive moment, then it's just filler. You might put it on a record if you need length, but you don't really need that anymore.
And how do you know a song is alive?
When I can sing it without cringing.
What do you do to make sure that you get to that point?
You can't make sure of it. Some of them you have to toss, tear them down for spare parts and try again,
So when you're listening to someone else's song, and we have a lot of songwriters who listen to this podcast, what makes a song come alive to your ears?
You never know. There's no set rule about it.
Is it like an internal feeling? Do you feel your hairs stand on end, or?
Yeah, there just has to be a lift and a connection. I mean, I think what makes a hit song is all the listeners out there hear themselves in it. That's why I had more success with "We Can't Make It Here" than I did with "Cheney's Toy."
Mm-hmm.
Cheney's Toy should never have been the lead track off that record, but by then I had already put out "We Can't Make It Here," so I was supposed to be the next Woody Guthrie, the next political songwriter. So they picked the political song off that record, which was never going to be any kind of hit. That was just McMurtry ranting. It's not a bad rant, as rants go, but there's nothing for the listener to really see himself in.
When you're presenting these new songs at shows, do you have a set list that you usually go with, or are you kind of impromptu about reading the audience and choosing songs?
No, we have a set list that usually works, and I'll vary it. I'll change out a song or two. Some nights just to keep us on our toes a little bit. If you do the exact same set list forever, then the sixth night in, you start flubbing lyrics because you can't remember which part of the song you're in because you just sang it, 5 nights before, over and over. Sometimes that'll happen anyway. Fatigue will get to you on the road.
That's true. Sure.
Do you have any thoughts on artificial intelligence? Have you dipped into that at all? Have you given that any thought?
No, I really haven't. I mean, until artificial intelligence can get in a van and drive around playing clubs, I'm not too worried.
As a writer, are you worried that it's going to somehow diminish the craft?
There will always be songwriters. I don't know if people will care whether their songs come from AI or from human songwriters. I don't have any control over that. But there will always be people who can write, and they will be in the minority for the most part.
Is there something about being human? I mean, your songs have such a. You're talking about, it's alive. I mean, the characters in your songs are alive. They are very flawed. They you could see, the mistakes that they make, and I mean, how important is it to be in touch with that part of your being if you're going to be a songwriter?
That's important for any art. I mean, my father would talk about that in prose. If your characters aren't interesting, there's no point in reading the book. Doesn't matter how good a plot it has. It's the character that engages the reader. And it's, it can be the character that engages the listener as well.
I've heard it said that, poets hurt a little bit more. Do you feel like you're
no,
more vulnerable?
Nah, that's ridiculous.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah, humans hurt.
Uh-huh.
Just that, we're allowed to express it. We're lucky in that way.
Are there any songs specifically in your catalog that you feel like got you through a really difficult time, helped you process?
Songs are tools that I write. I make these tools to make the records and to get through the sets. I don't really think of them as therapy for me. I have been, I'm finally coming around to the fact that they seem to be therapeutic for some of the listeners.
Mm.
People are coming up and saying, yeah, this got me through something. And for a long time, I didn't know how to process that. Now I'm thinking, well, maybe what I do is worth something
Yeah.
beyond the ticket price.
What do you take comfort from when times get hard?
The best thing is just to walk around out in the brush, in the woods or in a pasture or somewhere. Just to get away from things that hum if you can. I can't really escape anymore. My tinnitus is so bad. Anywhere I go sounds like a machine shop if there's nothing drowning it out. But still, deer hunting's good for that. Deer hunting, quail hunting, fishing. Fishing's good.
It reminded me of when I was playing in the border of Utah and Nevada at the border inn, and you could just walk in the middle of the night for miles in the sagebrush.
Yeah.
And it was, I would do that every night I was there because it was just peaceful. It's so quiet, so dark. The stars were bright enough to light your path. It was, those are some peaceful
Yeah,
moments.
man, if you can get to, even a state park, anywhere, just get out of the house and go walk around. That's the best thing for me.
How has the tinnitus affected your ability to perform live?
I don't know that it has because I play much louder than my ears ring, but they probably come hand in hand. The ringing in my left ear drowns out the ringing in my right. I think it's because for many years we were a trio and I was set up a little bit stage right, so that snare was banging in my left ear. It's like a pistol shot all night.
How about when you're playing solo?
I can't. I don't think about the ringing. I don't. When I'm playing solo, I'm still amplified for the most part. Except for there's one song I do unplugged. I do Blackberry Winter. If the room is less than 1,000 seats, or if it's a theater that's designed for operatic acoustics, then I can get away with just unplugging and walking down on the apron and walking around. But even then, I'm belting it. I'm singing as loud as I can, trying to carry. So I don't notice the ringing when I'm playing.
Every musician I know at some point has some tinnitus. I have a little bit, and you just hope that the note is in tune in your ear sometimes.
Yeah. Well, you got to get a good monitor mix.
Nature, I think, is such a good place to get out into, and I think we don't do that as much as, just in our technologically filled space. I even had a friend.
Most of us can't afford to it. I mean,
it's true. Well, I knew someone who grew up in Detroit, and they said they didn't see the stars until they were 18.
Yeah.
And that was, it blew my mind growing up in Tucson, and, a place where you see a lot of stars,
I saw a documentary with Bruce Springsteen recently where he said, we're going to play until the wheels come off. Do you picture yourself continuing to do this as long as you're physically able? Or,
yeah. Yeah, I don't, what else would I do?
What parts of the craft do you need to do for yourself, and how much of it is just making a living and getting to the end of the day?
I need to drive. So there's something about, and specifically American interstate highways. I don't so much like working in Europe because the rhythm is different. And I tend not to do my own driving over there. I'd rather have somebody that knows how they drive. It's not so much the roads themselves and the infrastructure, but just the mindset. I understand the mindset of the U.S. interstates, and it's in a way, it's both hectic and soothing to me. If I get out and drive 3 or 4 hours a day, I can play a show. It's just part of it. They're linked. And when I come off the road, it's an adjustment for a little while. I don't know, if I don't, you get into a rhythm on the road. Like you get up, you leave the hotel, you try to time it where you get to the next town at 3 o'clock because that's check-in time. You check in, you get everybody situated, you're down, you take an hour and a half off and just shut down. And then 4:30, go to the gig, load in, sound check, try to get something to eat, play your show, load out, repeat the same for 6 days. And on the 7th day, you just travel. And I really like that 7th day because I can just drive. I don't have to sing at night. Not that I mind singing, but by that 6th day, you're ready. Give your voice a rest.
Do you take, is that kind of a rule when your agent's booking, you say, I need a day off every
No, but
That's true. That's true.
Mondays are generally off because it's going to be a slow day.
Yeah, I see so many people booking just, a whole month, no day off. And it's amazing.
In Europe, they do it. That's another thing I don't like about working in Europe, because we've done like 33 days straight over there, and it shreds your voice.
Do you write when you're driving? This one songwriter I work with, he's a trucker, and so he says, he made a comment to me. He said, "Oh, I need to remember to write down my lyrics at some point." And do you write in your head? Do you relate to that, or is it more like with a pen and paper?
No, a lot of times I'll be turning over verses as I'm going down the road, and then if we get to the hotel with an hour off, the first thing I do before I crash is write down what I've been working on at the wheel.
When you're driving and something comes to you and you're not going to be able to stop for a while, what's the safest way to get that out of your head? And
well,
pen and paper?
It usually takes a while to wear it down, because you go along and you constantly think, can I improve this? Can I make it more singable? Is there a better rhyme? Is there a syllable that falls in the pocket better that'll make it punch? So, it's not, I don't just get it complete in one thought. So it'll stay with me usually till check-in time.
Is it fun to write songs?
It's fun to start songs. It's not fun to try to finish them. Thank
you, James McMurtry, for spending time talking with us today. It's an honor.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Mine too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, James, for being a part of our podcast.
Thank you, James.
Yeah, it was so good to learn more about what you do and what drives you to do what you do.
Amen, brother. All right. Well, this has been the Nathans Roncast. Come back soon, because we've got a wonderful interview with the great Vance Gilbert. That's on tap. But for now, we're going to say goodbye.
See you later.
Peace.